Welcome back to my vlog, y'all. I've been having some issues with my nutso here. I wanted to share them with everybody. I killed the flight controller in this. It had a Hobby Wing F4 in it. That may have been my fault. So I wanted to replace it with a Pyro Drone F4 because I've had such good luck with the Pyro Drone flight controllers. So I got a new one off Hilly Nation. Pyro Drone was out of them at the time. So I got a new one off Hilly Nation, put it in the first flight. Well, take a look. The fuck was that? So I should have, right away I should have blamed the flight controller, because if it was flying fine before that. I had the Hyperlight 2208.5 motors on here. So I thought maybe the motors and the flight controller just didn't work well together. So I decided to change the motors. And that didn't really solve the problem. It made it a little better, but it was still there. So I just still didn't. It occurred to me that it could be the flight controller, but I didn't want to believe it. So I tried brand new motors. Emax 2306, the RS2 2306 1700 kV, which is what's on here right now, as you can see. And before that, I decided to change the ESC because the Hobby Wing 4-in-1 that I had in here was getting kind of warm, and I thought, well, maybe it's the ESC that's causing all my problems. So I changed to the Furlean 32 ESC from Airbot, and it got a little better. Still was misfiring or twitching. I'm not even sure what it's doing. It's really odd. It was only at like 0 throttle, or when I went 0 throttle, it would just act weird. I even tried a new capacitor, 35 volt 1000 UF, which is what's on here now, and I shortened my capacitor wires because they were a little too long. And I thought, well, maybe the long wires, but it was flying fine. That should have been my first clue. It was flying fine, and so I started looking at the flight controller. This is the Pyro Drone F4 that I got from Hilly Nation. The one that's giving me so much trouble on the nutso. Look at the Y gyro. It's just sitting here. Motors aren't spinning. It's at 2.4, 2.6, and the X and the Z are at 0.49 to 0.7. Let's try another quad and see what they are. Start looking at it in beta flight with no power, just the USB power. Looking at the gyro traces, and the y-axis just was a little off compared to the other X and Z, and compared to all my other flight controllers it was off by 2 to 4 is that degrees? I'm not sure what that number means, but just sitting there not moving, it was off every time, and it would get progressively worse, which is what was happening in flight. It would get worse. It would fly fine for a few, I don't know, 30 seconds, and then it would just freak out and go into a loop where it was unrecoverable, and I had to kill it to bring it down. Just like when you break a prop, it was acting like it broke a prop. So after the new motors, new ESC, what else did I change? New motors, new ESC, new capacitor. Try to tune it out. I didn't want to try to tune it out. You can tune out a lot of stuff, but I didn't want to start with a bad flying quad and try to tune it out. So after all these new components, it flew okay, but it still was not like it should be. So I put the Brain FPV Radix flight controller in it, and it flies great now. No problems. feels good. It seems like it's flying great to me. And all this, I dropped a lot of weight off of it. These motors are much lighter. It only weighs 658 grams now, all up weight. So what I'm trying to say is, if you change the flight controller and it's flying bad, it's probably the flight controller. Look at the flight controller first, and if you look at the gyro traces in Betaflight on the motors tab, and one of them looks a little out, and maybe you should just change the flight controller, because I try to get a refund on it, because you're just going to be chasing your tail trying to tune a flight controller that's got a dodgy gyro, which is what I was going to try to do. And I finally just said, screw it, I just get a new flight controller, $30. Well, the Brain FPV is $50, and it may be the way I go in the future. We'll see how it does. So far, I love the way it flies. It really transformed this quad. I don't want to hype it, but maybe the gyro is a little bit higher quality. It sure looks it in the motors tab. It's all three axes were not perfect, but they were almost perfect, just sitting there. Alright, let's spin up these Emax RS2 2306 1700 kV on the Radix flight controller. See that super stable? Why does one say 9.5? I don't know what those numbers mean. See if we can reset it. What does that do? There we go. Is that the error? I don't know.
Launch mode.
Here we go. Mid throttle. That looks way better than the Pyro drone. I don't know, you let me know. What do you think? Now, that's the first bad gyro I've had on the Pyro drone flight controllers, so I really don't want to hate on the Pyro drone flight controllers because they're cheap and they work good, and I'll probably still buy some. I did get one DOA one, but Surge is going to replace it, so I'll put that in something, and we'll see how it does. Definitely we'll keep buying them. I mean, you really can't beat that $50 deal with the flight controller and the Furling 32 ESC. Can't beat that. So yeah, that's gonna do it. Let me know what you think. I really would like to see all this stuff work together better, because if I was new at this, that probably would have been it for me. I would have given up. This thing was so out of its mind. It just would not fly right. So the Nutso's flying good now. You'll see more videos of it.